session, so please have a seat and make yourself comfortable. And before that, I would like to remind all the participants to turn on your camera and active during the class. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan untuk kita semua. Hello everyone, good morning from Indonesia. Welcome back to summer course Lex Proficia 2021. My name is Faraziana Tisha and you can call me Tisha, and I will be your host for today's sessions. Thank you very much for all the participants for your enthusiasm to join this session. It is indeed a pleasure to have all of you today. First of all, let us give our praise to our God, to his blessing and mercy. We can still gather in the lovely morning. So let us start today with praise. So the sessions will run well without any obstacle at all. Let the pray begin. Amen. Thank you. Proceed to the next agenda. Now we come into the most awaited section, that is a class sessions with our special speaker, the one and only Dr. Sia Cincin, LLB, LLM, PhD, the public health and food law expert from Taylor University, Malaysia. And today we have an interesting topic. We will talking about the public health and food law that will be guided by our moderator, Mrs. Anggita Doramia Lumbaraja, SHMH. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mrs. Anggita Doramia Lumberja, SHMH.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tisha, as our master ceremony for today. Hello, everyone. Good morning. For the Honorable Distinguished Guest Lecturer, Dr. Sia Cincin from Taylor University. Good morning, Ms. Sia Cincin. And then good morning to fellow students and all of the participants of Lex Proficia who are joining in this Zoom meeting and also watching live streaming on YouTube. My name is Anggita Jeramiel Human Raja. I am Assistant Professor of Law in the Faculty of Law, Universitas Diponegoro. It is my pleasure to be a moderator for this virtual law class. First of all, I would like to welcome to all of you to this virtual law class in one session of the Lex Proficia 2021 about what we eat in the digital era, why law matters. I am so excited to have you here because we will discuss about something that is very uncommon in the law field because usually we always talk about maybe civil law, criminal law, and then right now and today we will going to discuss about the public food law. So our professor, this lecturer for today, will talk about how to conduct the research in the public food health, and then how the laws will be regulate or going work in the public or sorry food law in the matters. So she will give us some information that we we will never gotten before. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we start the presentation from our professor, I would like to remind you to mute your microphone. So please notice your microphone button on the mute mode. And there are several pieces of information that I would like to give to you. Uh, in this general lecture or this visual lecture, this will be take part in 10 until 12 p.m. in Semarang time, or 11 until 1 p.m. in Slanger time. So our professor will deliver her lecture maximum in 45 minutes, will be followed by the question and answer sessions. For your information, this lecture is recorded and also live streaming on YouTube channel. Second, the participants are allowed to write down your question in chat column in this virtual meeting room. So please ask your questions briefly and clearly. And then third, the questions and answer session will be opened by moderator right after our professor finishes her presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, before the presentation begins, please allow me to introduce to you our guest lecturer for today. Please share screen. Okay, her name is Dr. Sia Cincin. She is a senior lecturer at Taylor University, Malaysia. Her educational and qualification are as follows. In 2002, she graduated her bachelor degree from the University of Sheffield, England, United Kingdom. And in 2003, she got her postgraduate diploma in bar vocational studies in Cardiff University, Wales, United Kingdom. And in 2008, she graduated with her master's degree in law and economics from Université Pontchaillon et Marseille 3, France, Université Jean Belgium, and Università di Bologna, Italy. And in 2020, she got her PhD in public health law, food law on unilabeling from Taylor's University, Malaysia. Lucia Chinchin joined Taylor's University in 2015. Her principal fields of expertise include commercial law, public health and food law, lifelong legal education, international law, and economic analysis of law. She is supervising postgraduate and undergraduate students and is currently working on research of commercial law, legal education, and health and food policies. Prior to joining Taylor's University, she has extensive experience of more than 10 years in legal consultation. He was a program and a contracts administrator in scientific research funding department Saudi Arabia, legal counsel in an international firm in Milan, in charge of international commercial consultation and non-managing partner in Malaysian legal firm. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to welcome our professor to begin the presentations. Dr. Sitintin, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much, Angita. I'm very happy to see your smiley face again. Hopefully, we'll be able to meet each other in flesh and blood. But I can feel the warmth from you. Thank you very much, and all your help so far. Thank you so much. And welcome everyone, all the participants from all over the world. I believe that we have participants from Malaysia, participants from Australia, participants from Indonesia. And if I miss out any country, please forgive me. Okay, although I'm watching still the Olympic Games, but sometimes my geography can actually fool me a little bit. Okay, thank you very much. So thanks for the introduction by our Professor Angita, and also it's a pleasure to be here with you for this Lex Proficia, a very, very meaningful summer program, although it's online and I still enjoy it. So let me share with you some of the recent work that I have done regarding the food regulation, especially now we are in the digital age. Please let me know if you are able to view my screen. Thank you. So once the screen is visible, I will start. Thank you very much. Okay, cool. Thank you. I like the thumbs up. I like the reaction. Thank you very much, Tisha. Okay, so let's have a look. This is essentially one of the projects that were actually completed about a year ago regarding the collection of some of the experiential as well as some of the data that I have actually done with some of the students actually in the secondary school and also some of the food service providers. So what is this particular presentation all about? I will start off with the introduction of this particular topic, some literature review, what is the research paradigm, the methods, design, as well as the model used, what are the results that are used, and some of the relevant discussions, and what was the conclusion that could actually be derived from this particular piece of work. So the motivation of this particular study is due to the fact that we all know what we eat, but do you know what we are from what we eat? So this is from a very famous quote by this particular lawyer, as well as food expert in the 19th century, a French lawyer, Jean-Antoine Brillat-Savarin. For some cheese lovers, I'm sure that you're more familiar with the cheese itself than the name of the lawyer itself. So essentially, it's very important we know that what we eat, so that actually what we become. So as you can see here, well, again, Malaysia is the champion, but not in Olympics, unfortunately, in this particular round. we are the champion of being obese and overweight, and this is something that we shouldn't be proud of. And during the COVID-19 situation, some statistics also have shown that the obesity rate is on the rise due to some of the unavoidable circumstances of movement control order. People cannot do physical exercise outside, outdoor, and also they are confined in their home. So as you can see here, out of the ASEAN countries, also Indonesia is not very far from Malaysia, although I think Indonesia is actually doing much better than Malaysia. So as you can see here, Malaysia, 44.2% of the population. This is based on the statistics 2 years ago. So the latest statistic is not out yet, but I would foresee a higher rate in Malaysia. And Indonesia is only half of the Malaysian's rate, which is only 21%. We know that we are all bound at home. We are all using digital devices. We are having a sedentary life. So it's very important we know actually what we eat. And as you can see here, the increase is inevitable. And what can we do to stop this particular phenomenon? So as you can see here, we know that we do not become obese overnight. It's not like, in some of the comedy movies that people become overweight in one night. We grow into obese adults, unfortunately. So it's crucial that from the early age, the cycle should be stopped from as early as 5 years old, and crucially during the adolescence age between 13 to 20 years old. So in Malaysia, we have about 5.5 million of adolescents. About 1/5 of the total population is Malaysia. So if this population become obese, or majority of them become obese, this is a problem because we know also from the experience of this COVID-19 situation that obesity is at high risk of a mortality rate for the infection of COVID-19 patients. So we can see that essentially childhood obesity is on the rise, not only at the national level, but also international level. As such, there is a need for legal mechanisms to be implemented to overcome this particular public health issue, especially in this particular COVID-19 situation and in the digital age, where most of us are having very sedentary lifestyle. And it is also very important to have a school environment to mold informed individual choices. So in this particular project, 4 research questions are posed. So first of all, will the proposed regulatory regime be effective in promoting healthy diet, especially among adolescents using menu labeling, specifically in a private school setting? So what are the legal justifications, secondly, to implement these so-called menu labeling legislations based on local and international laws? And thirdly, to what extent does self-regulation by school cafeteria facilitate a healthy lifestyle or healthy diet among adolescents? Fourthly, what is the best way to formulate a framework of menu labeling regulation which could facilitate a healthy diet among adolescents in school? In order to answer those research questions, these are the objectives. First, to determine the potential effectiveness of the proposed menu labeling regulations in facilitating a healthy diet among adolescents. And second, to analyze the legal justifications both in international and national laws in implementing menu labeling regulations. Thirdly, to determine the self-regulations that have been adopted or are being adopted by the selected school cafeteria in encouraging a healthy diet. And fourthly, to propose a framework to increase the use of menu labeling information among adolescents to promote a healthy diet. So there are 3 research methods via qualitative methodologies that were actually employed in order to answer these research objectives. First is using the critical analysis of legal text. So this is traditional way of legal doctrinal research. And also the second one is commonly used in the public health law, as well as public social science studies using focus group discussions, as well as in situ interviews. Bear in mind that these were conducted prior to the COVID-19 situations, and as such, most, if not all of the sessions were conducted live in person, in flesh and blood, with the cafeteria operators as well as adolescents. So as you can see here, the value of this particular project is to fill the gap in justification in law of the manual labeling regulation, which is rarely explored in this particular part of the world. And secondly, to enable policymakers to devise a better manual labeling system, especially in the digital age, to improve the diet of the young people. And thirdly, to empower adolescents to devise a better manual labeling framework to increase the healthy diet among the younger population. So as you can see here, the limit of this particular project that it employs a small sample size, which is a very typical way of doing in qualitative research. And city dwellers, or the residents living in the Selangor, which is one of the most developed states in Malaysia. So we are not including some of the samples from the less developed cities. So thirdly, the legislations were selected based on the direct impact to the public consumer health through food regulations. So as such, the focus is on food, whereas some other forms of legislations related to a healthy lifestyle is not included in this particular study. So as you can see here, moving on to the literature review, the manual labeling is actually guided by the Codex guideline on nutrition labeling. And in Malaysia, it is recommended to be gazetted based on the National Plan of Action for Nutrition 3. So what is manual labeling? It's actually a type of food label that lists the nutritional information on the menus. Whereas for nutritional information panel and nutritional label, these are the typical section of food label declaring the amount of nutrients containing inside prepackaged or even some countries' restaurant menus. So these are actually some of the samples that you can easily find in some of the food packages. So what is the law governing this in Malaysia is based on Section 2 of the Food Act 1983. So food labels include any tag, brand, mark, pictorial, or other descriptive matter, written, printed, stenciled, marked, printed, embossed, or impressed on, or attached to or included in belonging to accompanying any food. So some of the reviews actually support the premise that manual labeling can effectively reduce caloric energy ordered and consumed in the away from home food environment. But there are some also inconsistent studies based on various jurisdictions. So now the purpose is to find out what are the obstacles in reducing the efficacy of manual labeling. Secondly, on the analysis of legal justification in the literature review, we do know that manual labeling is a potential legal tool. And we know that also public health law research is a very novel study of legal research in Malaysia and also in most part of the Southeast Asian country. So what is the public health law? Is a concept of law that is actually not confined to law on the books. It also covers a range of state and non-state regulatory techniques, such as social practice, as well as some of the corporate practices. So as such, in this particular context, there is a gap in the literature for the analysis of legal justification for food label, including manual labeling to promote healthy diet. So as such, there is a need to have a detailed analysis of legal text in the form of national statutes, international law, and legal cases that must be carried out specifically, which have also been carried out to legitimize manual labeling legislation specifically for adolescents. And also, there are some literature review looking at utilization and perceptions of menu labeling for adult consumers. And the literature review shows that there are very limited local studies that have been conducted to explore the perceptions of menu labeling for adult consumers, and there have never been qualitative data that are collected. So this is the very first one in this particular area of study. And as you can see here, some factors have been known to influence intentions to use menu labeling, which includes attitude, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral controls. Moving on, there are also some studies, which is more on quantitative study, specifically related to McDonald's or some of the fast food. And apparently it was actually a welcoming move. And as such, this is an encouraging trend. Okay, so as you can see here, it is crucial that to know sometimes the food labeling can actually be less effective, especially for the festive seasons, such as the Eid vacation or Hari Raya, or also for Christmas or some of the major festive seasons in our home countries. So for instance, birthday parties, I don't think that any of you would like to look at a food label and say how much calories of food I'm eating during my party. So this is normal and it is to be expected. However, there is a good potential in using healthy labeling for specifically work site as well as school cafeteria in order to encourage adolescents or their parents to be able to inculcate a culture of healthy diet. So the third perspective we're looking at is the perspective from the restaurateurs and the food service providers, such as the school cafeteria. So again, there are limited local studies that have been conducted to explore the perceptions of restaurants in menu labeling in commercial full service restaurants. As such, it is a very useful study to fill in the current gap, especially for the school cafeteria operators. So the only study that has been identified to qualitatively conduct this particular perception is at a worksite cafeteria, only involving only adult consumers. So we can see that from some of the previous studies, commercial full service restaurants generally have some inadequate knowledge of nutritional information themselves. Right? And also we'll be looking at the fact that corporate social responsibility can be linked to menu labeling in order to encourage healthy diet. So it is crucial that some recommendations to enhance this particular area could be used through the use of menu labeling law as a form of social responsibility. So moving on the current state of food labeling regulations, there is a lack of scholarly articles on the justification of menu labeling laws. And as such, this particular study fills in very nicely the lacuna in this particular area where there is a lack of detailed analysis on the justification. So as you can see here, moving on, some of the legal justification in the context of international laws include for adolescents, specifically Convention on the Rights of the Child. So menu labeling should be encouraged to promote healthy diet because it complies with Article 3, best interest of the child, Article 6, right to life, specifically to a healthy life, Article 12, also right to express views in order to formulate what is the best way of carrying out this particular operation of menu labeling law in 2025, alongside with Article 13, right to get and share information in relation to menu labeling nutritional information, Article 24, right to good quality health care, clean water, nutritious food, and clean environment. Most importantly, also Article 27, right to a standard of living adequate for the child's physical, mental, spiritual, moral, and social development. particularly with regard to nutrition, clothing, as well as housing. So particularly nutrition is a right enshrined in Article 27. In addition to the previous rights, let's look at Codex Alimentarius, or in short, Codex, which is the main international law under the FAO for the promotion of food and the standards required. So as you can see here, Article 1A of the Codex Alimentarius Commission, the responsibility is to make proposal for the purpose, which is protecting the health of the consumer and ensuring fair practices in the food trade. Moving on to the national laws, as you can see here, in Malaysia, the Federal Constitution 1957 specifically highlights Article 5 on the rights to life and liberty, and life here involves a liberal interpretation, which includes also life in the sense of a quality life and not miserable life. Moving on, the Food Act 1985 is the main instrument in relation to menu labeling regulations, and multiple sections dealt with food safety and labeling, and possible amendments to be recommended by the policymakers as well as from the public. Some of the other laws include Contracts Act 1950, Sale of Goods Act 1957, as well as consumer law under the Consumer Protection Act 1999. So what are the ways that we can actually propose to improve menu labeling regulations to promote a healthy diet? The main point is to use the participatory research as well as the theory of youth empowerment within the youth community or the adolescents in order to encourage awareness and compliance in this particular framework. And also it's crucial to explore potential issues faced by food service operators in order to see what can actually help them to incorporate food labeling into their daily routine as part of the regulation without compromising on the cost of operation. So what are the research paradigms that are employed in this particular project? So 3 paradigms are incorporated, including constructivism, critical theory, as well as participatory research paradigms. So as you can see here, the design of this particular research is in line with the research objective, which is to determine the potential effectiveness of proposed menu labeling. So the paradigm here employed is using participatory and constructivism, and the methodology used is focus group discussion. So as you can see here, in order to protect the privacy and anonymity of the participants, who are mostly all of them are minors in the situation, I have purposely grayed out their images. So there was a few sessions that were conducted in February 2019 and March 2019 as well. So they were free to express their views on what they think is the best way of moving forward with this menu labeling regulation. In addition, they also were actually given questionnaire in order to gauge their understanding of what menu labeling law is. Moving on, regarding the methodology of the design and model, the research objective 2 has used critical theory as well as critical interpretation of legal text, which is the doctrinal research, to achieve this particular research objective on the international and national laws. Regarding research objective 3, it is also the use of some critical theory, whereas the methodology used is using the in situ interview with the cafeteria operators in order to determine the self-regulations which have been adopted by the school cafeteria in encouraging a healthy diet. So in order to also protect the anonymity of these particular fields of experts that they actually had a conversation with me. So they are from the cafeteria, manager, sector, dietitian, as well as the Ministry of Health dietitians. Lastly, in order to propose a framework to increase the use of manual labeling information among the adolescents, constructivism paradigm is used where a mix of methodologies such as focus groups, in-situ interviews, and legal texts were employed in order to achieve this particular objective. So the reason why focus group is used as the main research method because of the three main functions. First, the pedagogy function, the political function as the inquiry of synergistic articulations functions. So we know that throughout the life cycle of a human being, adolescence takes about 7 to 8 years of a person's life, but it is one of the most crucial stage of life where their views are actually formed, most of them at this stage, and their way of thinking are largely formed at this particular age. And as such, it's crucial to be able to gauge this group in order to formulate a framework and gauge their view in this particular formulation. We know that this is the age where they are digital natives, where some language that they use are totally incomprehensible to some of their parents. So as you can see here, this is the crucial age in order to devise a framework, especially in this particular digital era. So some of the challenges encountered during this particular research includes the approval from the institutional human ethics in order to ensure that the best interests of adolescents are not compromised through this particular research. And also some of the challenges include the parents' consent, where, as we all are familiar with, most of the parents, especially in this part of the world, do not view research as a very important way for the well-being of the society, where academic results are the top priority. So some of the parents are of the view that it is a complete waste of time for the adolescents to be in this research as part of the participants. So fortunately, I was very, very lucky to have the school principal as well as the school secondary head in order to assist me, as well as some of the very, very friendly staff that helped me to locate and obtain consent from the parents of these adolescents. The third challenge is also to ensure the anonymity and confidentiality are actually safeguarded to minors and also their parents. Lastly is the cost in professional video recording equipment and archiving. Unfortunately, Taylor's University have excellent staff members who are professionals in video recording that have greatly assisted me, which I'm not totally an expert in video recording and also archiving. So their help have been very, very, very precious in order to carry out this particular research. So some of the results that have occurred after the study is that the manager's perception is that there are currently some soft measures to promote a healthy diet. Okay, and also there are some self-regulations which are currently in place. However, there are direct and indirect costs involving using some of the measures here, because we know that in order to have a healthy diet, it means that there has to be better quality products to be used, and also training of the staff cost. And most importantly, it is also observed that there is a lack of habitual utility of the labels or adolescents from their perspective. So for the dietitian's perspective, both from the school cafeteria and the Ministry of Health, it is crucial that monitoring of kitchen staff is one of the key success factors in order to ensure the menu labeling regulation could be fully implemented. And also it is crucial for adolescents to be able to self-monitor. And some of the challenges include also the lack of registered dietitians in Malaysia. In this particular country, we are one of the countries with the least qualified dietitians all over the world. Most importantly, there is a crucial need to increase food literacy of the adolescents as well. So some of the questionnaires that were distributed, as you can see here, most of our adolescents in this study actually purchase fast food, more than half of them in a week, all right? And the frequency of reading food label is never, about half of them never read, all right? And also about half of them never purchase the food based on calorie or nutrition labels at all. So as you can see here, the only most important consideration for food choices are cost and taste. So it's very, very primitive in the sense that also when I was younger, I don't remember reading the labels at all when I purchased food. And some of the also questionnaire reveals that most of them, only 10% are aware that the required caloric recommended portion is correctly the range between 1,900 and 2,300 calories. So most of them got the answer wrong. And we know that, as you can see here, although they do notice menu labeling, but unfortunately, 86% of them have never used any food labels or menu labeling and never used that label as a decision factor. And this is actually one of the obstacles in order to build the momentum. So as you can see here, some of the emerging themes from the discussion include that there are some information asymmetry in many labels, although they do suggest ways, but I think some of the ways are actually quite feasible based on the digital age as well. So we will share that with you. So as you can see here, we know that although parents' influence, public campaigns are important self-awareness, but they also actually propose big ideas that using some of the color to make it more visible, make it very simple, engaging, and most importantly, use some mobile apps or social network in order to encourage the habit of using menu labels when actually purchasing or making food decisions. As far as I know, in Italy, there are already companies where they have pre-packed menus with the calorie information and already calculated for the consumers. So online orders can actually be made directly, and as the consumer choose the portion of food, all the caloric information are already automatically calculated. So it's like when we are at home, we need to purchase food from, for instance, Food Panda, or we want to purchase from GrabFood or other some of the online food platforms. It's very, very easy already, but currently it is not available yet in our part of this particular world. So moving on, as you can see here, we know that the legal justification is ample and clear, both based on the international laws and national laws. However, there are obstacles in implementation and enforcement of the menu labeling law, particularly due to lack of the role models of the guardians or parents, lack of nutritionists and staff, inadequacy of knowledge of the kitchen operators, as well as some of the staff members of the school management, especially in some of the less developed areas. And also, most importantly, some of the increased operational cost for compliance with this menu labeling to be implemented in 2025. So moving on, some potential solutions that are identified from this study include that there is a need to let the adolescents be the agents of healthful change. So some of the models here is using the New Zealand's Healthy Start to Life education for adolescents, that were actually carried out in 2017 to increase the number of qualified nutritionists and dietitians. Also, there is a need to increase self-regulation in training using mother tongues of the canteen of cafeteria operators, because some of them are not actually able to understand either English or Bahasa. Most importantly, to reinforce the knowledge using multilingual means of this manual labeling information. Also, it's crucial to include the homegrown school feeding program, which were actually in place somewhere in 2017, right? To reduce the operational cost. This study by Drake AL was actually conducted also in Indonesia. So moving on to conclude, in order to answer the research question, would the proposed regulatory regime effective? It is possible. It is possible as long as there is increase of commonly out-of-home meals with labels, and is crucial to improve self-awareness within the peers, and also to increase the public campaigns by the adolescents, and also to change the perception of the guardians. The next one, what are the legal justifications? As you have already seen from the previous discussion: Federal Constitution, Food Act, Contracts Act, Consumer Protection Act 1999, Sale Goods Act 1957, Convention on the Rights of the Child, and Codex Alimentarius are some, or if not most, of the important legislations in legal justification of the manual labeling legislation. And thirdly, to what extent does self-regulation by school cafeterias facilitate healthy diets? We know that from this particular cafeteria, they do have strong spirit to adhere to self-regulation. However, not all the cafeterias or canteens have this mentality, and as such, there is a need to promote this particular mentality. Also, from the adolescent's perspective, there is a need to increase the adolescents' health literacy. In addition, there is a need to rectify the habits of the kitchen staff who are less prone to follow standards operating procedures. And it's also crucial to look at the direct and indirect costs in order for the school cafeteria to carry out self-regulation. Fourthly, what is the way to formulate a framework of manual labeling regulation? So we can see that 3 dimensions are crucial. First is the user, who are the adolescents. Secondly is the government, in order to reduce the cost of the operation of the legal change in manual labeling regulation implementation. So subsidies or tax incentives could be provided for caterers or food service providers who are willing to comply at a voluntary basis prior to 2025. And also the corporate itself, or the companies or the cafeteria operators or food service providers should also use this as a tool to increase their corporate social responsibility awareness using the manual labeling. So what is the theoretical as well as practical implications? So the practical part is on the empowerment of adolescents through this particular study, and also to fill in the legal gap in justification of manual labeling. Thirdly, to enable policymakers to devise a better system and to devise business strategy for the corporate in order to enhance their corporate social responsibility, specifically for caterers of food service providers, especially in this online age where most of the food are sold through deliveries. All right. From the theoretical enhancement, we can see that critical youth empowerment and participatory research are actually greatly enhanced during this particular research. So some of the recommendations that I would like to invite our colleagues from different parts of the world, including also Indonesia, from our privileged university, in order to look at the analysis of any other relevant legislations to create positive incentive So it could also include non-dietary related regulations, such as the use of bicycle lane or implementation of certain hours where vehicles are not to be motor vehicles to be actually excluded from some areas in order to enable physical activity after the COVID situation has eased. And also a study to compare the pre and post behavioral change during this manual labeling regulation transition stage, because currently it's yet to be implemented. So 4 years along the line, we should be able to see the post behavioral change. And also there is a need to look at the cost and benefit impact analysis of this particular manual labeling. What impact it could have on the restaurateurs? Will it reduce their revenue? Will it increase their revenue? That will be a very good way to look at the impact as well from this particular change in regulation. So I'll be happy to take some of the questions, or I'll try to answer most of the questions from this floor, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for your presentations. And before we step to the next agenda to read all of the questions from the participants, I would like to ask you some questions regarding the food law in Malaysia.
Yes.
I've seen in internet literature that in Malaysia has been promulgated food law and that food regulation, food act and food regulation since 1983 or 1985. So
Yes.
how far is effectiveness of these two kind of the regulations to regulate all of the food problems such as obesity and then the awareness of the food labeling?
Thank you very much. Yeah, this is a very good question. So there are two parts to your question. First is what is the current food law regulating? And secondly, whether this particular food law has increased healthy diet. So the first question on the food law currently in place, they are more focused on the regulating of food quality that is to be consumed. So for instance, we know that in the past, there were some issues, not in this part of the world, but some exporting countries, they have contaminated seafood issues. And also at a global aspect, the milk powder issue, if you can recall from a major economic body, especially in the composition of the milk powder, especially for baby milk, it was actually a big issue 10 years ago from China. So in order to ensure that these unwanted issues are actually recurring, especially for exporting or importing of food products, this food law has been very, very effective. Nevertheless, for the promotion of healthy diet, this food law itself still needs a lot of work and needs to be improvised. So one of the recommendations here is to the use of manual labeling.
Thank you very much for the explanation, Dr. Siacincin.
No problem. And I apologize for some of the background because my kids are at home. So you can imagine the circus going around. It's not on the screen, okay? It's in the background.
Okay. That's okay.
Yes.
That's the kids.
Yes.
The nature. Okay, we will going to read one by one the questions from the participants and from the Daphne, from your students. Daphne, do you want to read your by yourself your questions, or should I read it to you? Daphne, are you staying with us? Hello, Daphne. Daphne, are you staying with us? Okay. She asked me to read her questions. Okay, Dr. Siacincin, this is the question.
Hi, Miss. Can I speak now?
Okay.
Yes,
of course, sure.
Because just now it was shown that participants are not allowed to speak or something. I can't unmute. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay.
Please ask the question.
Yeah. So basically, this area of law, it's very new to me. So I have no knowledge on, okay, I have heard about food law and stuff like that, but not really the knowledge or like in-depth information about it. So I'm quite interested in it. So I would like to ask, like, do you think that normal people, like those without health problem or those are not losing their weight, are aware of the importance of the food nutrition labels or even read the labels or even the law? Like they don't even know there's a law to regulate it. And do you think that
Very,
Malaysia, do you think Malaysia like really has achieved in enhancing the awareness, like to the citizens, to the people? Yeah, because even though the parents are like aware, but sometimes they don't put too much focus on it. So that's my question. Yeah, thank you.
That's the reason why we are doing this research, because we know that we are food paradise in this country. We know that we eat 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
I mean, almost in dream also we eat. We dream about eating nasi lemak. We dream about eating durian. We dream about eating whatever that is available. I know this is our culture. It's acceptable, but also there is a need to seek a balance to it to a certain extent. When we look at the statistics on the overweight, don't be shocked. We already achieved 50% of obesity. So that's not worth of an Olympics medal.
Yes, true, Miss.
Yes. So yes, thank you very much, Daphne. So I hope that this session helps you to also create some awareness, because I know that friends around us, I mean, when I was younger, my mom never mentioned about food labeling to me. This is common. Yeah. So it takes time to build this momentum, and it's important we start from ourselves, and it's important we start from the generation from your age as well.
Okay. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you, Daphne. Yes.
Thank you very much, and for Daphne for the questions. And then sorry, Daphne, do you think that you have any questions for our professor?
Oh, I think I have a further question. Like, how about like interpreting the numbers? Because even we look at the nutrition labels, sometimes we'll be like looking at maybe how many calories, but we don't really care. So is there any way that we can enhance people to know how to interpret the numbers?
Yes, totally agree. I'm not good at numbers as well. So that's the reason why there is a need to use color-coded signs. So in this country, we do not have it yet, because most of us, we follow the traditional way, but in some parts of the world, already they have traffic colors, traffic light colors. At home, I will have, I mean, I don't know whether we have time to show, but I have some thing at home that I can show you where they show the traffic light labels. If it is red, it means that it's high in sugar, high in salt, and high in fat. So you take it at your own risk, the kind of situation. Whereas there are some green labels as well as yellow labels where you can actually see to gauge some kind of knowledge on the nutrition that is contained. So it doesn't require much of reading. It's more of color-coded kind of way of nutritional labeling system.
Okay, noted, Miss.
Yes.
Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Daphne. And thank you for your very, very good question.
Okay, is it answer your questions, all of the questions of you?
Yes.
Daphne?
Yeah, yes, Miss.
There's no other questions?
Yeah, no other questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Daphne. Okay, I've seen here, there's another questions from Tan Ajin. Sorry if I mistaken to pronounce your name, Tan Ajin.
Hi, yes. Hi, doctors. Yeah.
Yes, Adrian, good to see you back here.
Good to see you again. I agree with Daphne. This is a very impressive research and very interesting indeed. So my team and I were involved in planning a campaign to encourage healthy eating among school children in Malaysia. But there were two major problems that we found. So firstly, a lot of people have this misconception that healthy food is expensive because a lot of healthy recipes that you see online are based on overseas produce. So like blueberries, avocados, asparagus, those are more expensive when you buy it here in Malaysia. So it kind of discourages people to eat healthier. And also another problem is that school canteen operators feel that selling healthy food is less profitable. So how do we overcome this? Even when we have all the food labels and all that, people may not, they may not, they still have reluctance to eat healthier.
Very, very good question. A really realistic question that needs a lot of groundwork from us. First of all, and when I was living in Italy, they are proud of their local produce. Can we make ourselves proud of our own local produce? That's the mentality we need to shout out to the world. For instance, in Indonesia, I believe that you're proud of your coffee, because when I went to Bali, it was like coffee all over the place. And in Malaysia, we are proud of our food, but we don't shout it out to the people around the world. We can actually, as you can see here, the perception is actually misconceived, because a lot of people in Malaysia think that healthy food has to come from some developed countries, which is totally misconceived, correct, Eugene? Because we know that our local produce, such as we have our own local produce, such as our own durian, which is currently in season, although we know that it's high in calorie, but it's also high in fiber as well as protein. So that is a way to sell out and also to encourage as well. And we also have one of the controversial product, palm oil. So this is one way also to shout out to the world that palm oil is not totally unhealthy. So there is a need. It's a heavy, heavy political discussion, and it can be done if there is a group of stronger supporters in this. And also, we do not have blueberries, but we do have rambutan, correct? The tropical fruits, from the perception when I was living in European countries, they were perceiving as a very exotic and healthy. So I think it's more of human nature. We want something different. We want something exotic, but that mentality needs to be changed. I remember when I was living in Italy, 4 rambutans can cost like 50 ringgit, 50. And these are rambutans with very, very dried, already not fresh. So we need to change that mentality in our local context. That is a campaign that you, Eugene, and your friends need to work on. And I will help you if there is something I can do. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Sia. And another question is, there is also another side of the problem. So where some people with eating disorders, they can become obsessive with numbers on food labels. So how do we ensure that food labels serve its purpose to educate people about its nutritional content, while also minimizing its triggering effect on people with the eating disorders?
A very good question again. We know that during COVID-19, we are told to wash our hands. So it's the same mentality, okay? So we know that hand washing is normal, but we overwash it becomes a disorder. So this goes also the same way for health conscious behavior. So there is a need to seek a balance by emphasizing that while we try to maintain our health, obsession is not healthy at all. Obesity, yes, but not obsession. I hope that answers your question, Eugene. I know this is more of a psychological issue. I'm happy to explore, but unfortunately, I'm not an expert. But I think this is one of the ways we can look at it from the social science perspective.
Right. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you for the very interesting question, Eugene.
Most representative, of course, for the Egypt. So this is our homework to promote to all of people that actually there's a lot of food ingredients around us that it's very healthy, and we do not have to seek the expensive food ingredients, because there are already food ingredients that are very, very healthy around us, and very and cheaper than what we expect in, maybe because, yeah, this is because we usually watch it or see it in the from our social media, such as this Instagram and then YouTube. So maybe for the students like us as an agent and their friends, her friends, with a social agent, sorry, state of agents, to promote that, yeah, all of us have enough food ingredients around us that are very, very healthy. Thank you very much for Dr. Sia Chin, and then for the 18. Is there any questions from the participants, the other participants? Maybe you have another questions. Okay, from, who is this?
Hello, I'm Dennis.
Okay,
Can
Dennis. Okay,
yes,
the time
I
is
want
yours.
to I want to type the question, but it's quite long, so I just speak. Okay.
Thank you.
Greeting, doctor. I'm a more to conservative person, more to realistic person. So we know that cafeteria operator actually renew the contract 3 years, every 3 years, and the renew contract never mention on nutritionist of food that serve, but just how satisfy the student and the teachers on the menu served, including the cost of it. Is it cheap? We know in reality that they never had, and the food operator never had any incentive to actually implement a healthy diet, as it increasing cost, not popular with children, no sufficient knowledge of it. So why we still doesn't make drastic change and follow the model of countries such as Korea, Japan, and China, as they are ranking the lowest in obesity ranking, where they have their own cafeteria by the government and have their own dietitian to actually plan the meal, because it solves a lot of problems such as malnutrition, provide a job opportunity for dietitian, and also prevent obesity, as is you say that it starts from the childhood. We spend half of our life in childhood. So why we never even take this as alternative way to compare to more conservative ways such as food labeling and reinforcing knowledge, and let the youth take the charge of their own dietitian? And what the obstacle of implementing this way? Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you very much, Iqbal. I like your spirit. It's very revolutionist. So I hope the government is hearing what we are saying here. Unfortunately, some of the small stakeholders, such as the cafeteria operators, we need to let them adjust to it. So sudden change is ideal, but may not be practical. I totally love your idea, Iqbal. But I think it's time to change. It takes time, but we need to start from ourselves. So it has to be from the children or the parents to demand from this particular request of having the healthy menu. So it is demand supply situation. So if the supplier has to comply with the demand of the consumers, then this can happen. I hope that answers your question, Iqbal.
Okay, sorry, that question from Dennis, actually.
Oh, sorry, Dennis. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dennis. Yeah.
Dennis?
Apologize. Yeah, Dennis. Dennis, does that answer your question, Dennis?
Yes, but I believe that if the government actually want to tackle the problem, why what Ministry of Health and Ministry of Education itself can actually work on this? But we actually the government actually put a stance, or we want to fight the obesity, but the thing is they never show any action to actually tackle this problem more on the ground level. So yeah, I think it's very unfortunate. You just put a law but doesn't implement it. Yeah.
Yeah, Danish, I think you're right, because the implementation scope is very narrow. When I went to the Ministry of Health, they do have some selected schools that they have pilot projects for this. As you had suggested, in Japan and in Korea, they have a set menu in a lunchbox bento style with all the nutritional portions already determined. It is happening, but at a pilot project. I like your idea, Ninish. That should be expanded to all over the country. Because currently, with the lockdown, we know that most of our service providers in the canteen also, they're suffering, just like the rest of the world, retrenchment. So this is real. I like your idea. Definitely, when the school reopens, I'm hoping that the Ministry of Health will resume the spirit of rolling out this bento program. It's happening, but it's on the pilot scale.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much, Danish.
Okay, Dennis, I see here that an agent agree with you too. Okay, is there any questions from the other participants? If there is no questions anymore, we would like to step to another agenda, or we end our forum for today. Okay, I think there is no more questions from the participants. Thank you very much, Dr. Sechintin, and all of the participants that have participated in this virtual law class, Lex Proficia 2021. And to end our virtual law class, I would like to please our professor to conclude her presentations for today. Time is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. And I can see a lot of enthusiasm from this particular group. I wish we can engage more, and I'm sure that we'll keep in touch. Definitely, either now or in the future, in order to make this happen. Because I think we have a mission to do, right? We don't want to be the gold medalist for obesity anymore. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your time in joining, and thank you for all of your opinions. And thank you especially for the platform provided by Lex Proficia for us to exchange and to explore our ideas together.
With pleasure. Thank you very much, Doctor. And for the fellow participants, if you have another questions regarding how to conduct the research regarding the food law, you can ask out to our professor directly via email. Okay, thank you very much. And I would like to return the floor to our Miss Ticia as our master ceremony. The time is yours, Ticia.
Okay, thank you very much, Mrs. Sanggita Doramia Lumanraja, SHMH, and absolutely Dr. Zia Cincin, LLB, LLM, PhD, for your comprehensive and insightful material. It's actually very eye-opening. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we will hold a photo sessions. In order that all the participants, please turn on your camera. Come on, guys, please turn on your camera. I want to see your beautiful face. All right. Okay. On my side, give your best pose in 3, 2, 1. Once more. In 3, 2, 1. All right, thank you very much. Okay, finally, we are in the end of the sessions. It has been a great and wonderful morning with all of you. May what we had conducted today will be useful for us. As the Master of Ceremony and on behalf of committee, would like to apologize if there's any mistake during this event. That's all for today. See you on another sessions of summer course Lex Proficia 2021. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Santi Santi Om Namo Buddhaya. Salam kebajikan untuk kita semua. Stay safe and stay healthy. Have a good rest, everyone. See ya.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sechintin. Thank you very much, Ticia, and everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Shah.
Sorry, may I have the attendance link again? My network just went down just now.
Oh, okay. Our
Thank you.
admin will share to you in chat column. Dr. Cincin, you can leave right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And please share the YouTube link. Thank you, Angita.
Okay,
Keep in
of course.
touch.